Han Li hoisted up a rope attached to a bucket and threw the bucket into the mountain spring. Once the bucket was filled to the brim with spring water, he pulled it back up. Without expending any strength, Han Li easily lifted the wooden bucket above his head, and with a flick of his wrist, a wah sound rang out as the water in the bucket poured over his head, drenching him all the way to his toes. How refreshing! How comfortable! Han Li and another youth both exclaimed in delight. The water was a soothing effect in the hot summer climate. The heat was unbearably hot, so as they poured spring water over their bodies, they shivered in delight. Ha ha! Junior disciple Han, you really found a good place. This creek was well hidden, and yet you somehow managed to discover it, the youth with a callous look on his face suddenly stated. This is nothing, there are even more remote places that are harder to discover. I have only managed to find a few, but it's a pity that none of the locations I found had spring water as magnificent as this one, the other youth straightforwardly replied. The youth who replied was Han Li, and the one with the callous expression was none other than Li Feiyu. Ever since Li Feiyu obtained the first delivery of pain-relieving medicine from Han Li and tested them, he found that the medicine's effectiveness was extremely good. One dose diminished the backlash caused by the essence extraction pill by a great amount. After experiencing Han Li's pain-relieving medicine, Li Feiyu couldn't live without it. Whenever he didn't use the medicine, he would suffer a painful backlash from the essence extraction pill. Although Han Li had given him a year's supply of pain-relieving medicine, Li Feiyu had completely used up his supply within a few short months. Facing the pain of the backlash that almost broke his limits, Li Feiyu had no choice but to thicken his skin and ask Han Li for help. The current Han Li wanted to increase his own strength, so he used Li Feiyu's needs to his own advantage. After knowing that Li Feiyu was selected to enter the 7 Supreme Division, Han Li asked Li Feiyu for secret skills stored in the 7 Supreme Division in exchange for pain-relieving medicine. The usually silent Li Feiyu agreed immediately upon hearing Han Li's request. In order to not let others discover the secret agreement between him and Li Feiyu, Han Li decided to explore the Celestial Rainbow Mountain for a remote location where they could do their trade in private. The two of them decided to secretly meet up after a set amount of time. In their secret location, Han Li would hand over the pain-relieving medicine to Li Feiyu, and Li Feiyu would teach Han Li some of his secret arts that he gained from the 7 Supreme Division. Just like this, they were both extremely satisfied by their trade, which continued for half a year. Li Feiyu and Han Li had taken to each other during this half year. Unknowingly, they became close friends that could talk about anything under the sun. Li Feiyu was very satisfied with the spot Han Li found, especially the small creek it contained. They stood in a medium-sized depression surrounded by tall mountain peaks. In order to gain access to it, they had to crawl on their hands and feet through an extremely narrow tunnel. Most importantly, this place had a flowing spring, which they had access to during the unbearably hot summer. After they exercised and bathed themselves in the cool mountain spring water, they felt an incomparable sense of comfort and satisfaction. Once they were done washing themselves, Han Li glanced at Li Feiyu and asked, "Earlier, you taught me the ferocious serpentine strike. Although it's a formidable technique, it is too vicious, so I don't think it is suitable for me. Are there any other techniques that are more gentle?" Junior disciple Han, do you really think that I am the only disciple in the 7 Supreme Division, or that I can learn whatever I wish to learn? I could only select a small amount of techniques to study. Not to mention, my martial arts has always been overbearing in nature, so of course I would pick a formidable, hard technique. Li Feiyu explained to Han Li, exasperated by his request. Senior disciple Li is the leader amongst all the disciples. How could you be comparable to the normal disciples in the 7 Supreme Division? Noticing hints of anger, Han Li unabashedly began to praise Li Feiyu. It is not so simple, but to think that I actually managed to make our great genius Han sing songs of praises. Li Feiyu smiled as he teased Han Li. What genius? I'm always defeated by you after a few moves. Hang. That was because I used my true chi to execute my techniques. There is nothing to boast of. If I did not use my true chi, I'm afraid that I would definitely lose to you within 100 moves. Is there even anyone who doesn't use their true chi when fighting? Senior disciple Li is too humble. Humble? I'm not humble at all. You did not start learning martial arts until recently and had never sparred with anyone before. The only thing you learned was some useless oracular formula. To think that within such a short span of time, you have already comprehended the intricacies of each martial technique that I taught you. If you are not a genius, then who is? That oracular formula seems to have no effect on increasing your might, so why are you still assiduously practicing it every day? Han Li bitterly smiled to himself as he thought, you think that I want to learn this? Right now, I might as well be riding on top of a tiger. Even if want to stop practicing it, Dr. Mo wouldn't let me. Junior disciple Han, I'm not saying this just for the sake of talking. Based on the talent you displayed this past half a year, I know that you have great potential. I strongly urge that you discard the stupid oracular formula and concentrate on learning martial arts techniques with me. I dare to guarantee that you would only need a span of 2 years to become strong enough to everyone. I have no doubts that after 2 years, both you and I will dominate the Seven Mysteries sect. Li Feiyu tried persuading him. Han Li felt somewhat moved in his heart. Although Li Feiyu had said these words many times, making Han Li feel irritated, the senior disciple did have some good points. Not only that, Li Feiyu sincerely cared for Han Li's future. Han Li shook his head, showing his rejection of the idea, and quickly changed the topic. In the 7 Supreme Division, are there any supreme martial arts techniques that restrict opponents without consuming true qi? Li Feiyu, seeing how quickly Han Li changed the topic, stopped trying to persuade him. He didn't want to force Han Li since he knew that Han Li was the same as him, a keeper of a secret that he wanted to keep hidden. Li Feiyu lowered his head to ponder before mentioning, there is indeed a strange sword technique that does not require true qi to execute, but what? The moment Han Li heard that there was a technique he could use, he was overjoyed and quickly asked for more information. This particular set of sword techniques has been passed down in the 7 Supreme Division for over 100 years, but there has never been a disciple who was able to successfully master it. Even the elder who created this technique passed away before mastering. This technique is known as the blinking sword art. Don't you think that the name for this technique is bizarre? Blinking sword art? Han Li murmured. That's right. What do you think this set of sword techniques has in common with eyes blinking? Isn't the name funny? Have you practiced this set of sword techniques before? Han Li asked curiously. Of course not. Who would practice such a useless set of sword arts? It's all form and no power. Ever since this sword technique was created, no one has chosen to practice it, let alone me, senior disciple Li. I was told that if the creator of this set of sword techniques hadn't saved the sect leader's life countless times and left a will for it to be placed inside the 7 Supreme Division, the 7 Supreme Division wouldn't have even considered storing this type of swordplay. With his cold countenance, Li Feiyu was someone whom Han Li would never have thought of as a big mouth. Who would have thought that Li Feiyu would list all of the techniques and stances for this particular sword art before Han Li opened his mouth to speak? Li Feiyu would only act in this manner when privately facing Han Li. In the presence of a disciple other than Han Li, he would revert back to the cool senior disciple Li who was revered by every other disciple. After hearing Li Feiyu speak, Han Li's intuition told him that this was the technique he was looking for. Senior disciple Li, could you copy this set of sword techniques from the 7 Supreme Division and bring it to me? Hee. No problem. If you were to ask about any other martial arts, I might not be able to guarantee success since there would be people guarding it. But as for the blinking sword art, you can count on me. However, copying it is too much of a hassle, so I will just steal the original book for you. Once you record the techniques listed down, just give it back to me, and I will stealthily return it to its original location. This way, no one would notice its absence. Li Feiyu nonchalantly made a bold suggestion. Han Li felt that Li Feiyu was very confident about this, and as such, agreed to his suggestion. Initially, Han Li was concerned that Li Feiyu might accidentally overlook or miss a portion of the technique when copying it down, but since he wanted to steal the original copy of the technique, Han Li could be more at ease. It's getting late. I should go back and practice my martial arts. If not, the 7 Supreme Division might discover that I sneaked out. Li Feiyu dried his body and donned his clothes in preparation to leave Han Li's secluded mountain hideout. Before Li Feiyu left, Han Li reminded him to be cautious when stealing the sword technique manual. After Li Feiyu left, Han Li returned back to God Hand Valley as well. Upon stepping inside the valley, Han Li could see the mysterious figure that Dr. Mo brought back from afar, standing motionlessly as a guard outside of Dr. Mo's residence. It was as if the summer heat did not affect him in the slightest way. Han Li, as he neared to the entrance of his own residence, halted his steps and glanced at the silent, mysterious man guarding Dr. Mo's doorstep. Ever since Dr. Mo threatened him, Han Li had felt an extreme interest regarding what the mysterious figure looked like underneath his hood. Han Li had never heard him speak a single word after arriving at the valley, causing him to wonder if the man had been mute since birth. What was even more surprising was that this mysterious man seemed to have an elephant constitution. He could silently stand on guard for an entire day without being exhausted. In Han Li's heart, only the word freak could be used to describe this mysterious figure. He had once tried to communicate with this man, but the mysterious figure was akin to a block of wood, eliciting no response no matter what Han Li said to him. Han Li truly felt that Dr. Mo was amazing for being able to train a person to an extent where the person became similar to a puppet. The mysterious figure had no weaknesses or emotions. In addition, it was equipped with Herculean strength and was completely obedient to Dr. Mo's orders. This was Han Li's judgment regarding the mysterious man Dr. Mo brought back from his travels. Han Li knew that this mysterious man could very well be used by Dr. Mo to suppress him in the future, but despite of this, he was unable to find a solution or a weakness to exploit. The only thing that aroused Han Li's suspicion was that he could vaguely feel a sense of familiarity whenever he viewed the mysterious man's back. It was as if he had encountered this man somewhere before. However, no matter how hard he pondered, he could not recall why this man's back seemed so familiar to him. After a while, Han Li let out a sigh and he closed his door. Returning back to his residence, he knew that unless Dr. Mo gave a different order, the mysterious man would likely continue standing on guard without resting. Feeling slightly confused in his heart, Han Li decided not to worry anymore and jumped onto his bed, laying his head on his interlocked fingers. On his bed, Han Li slowly closed his eyes as he tried to organize his thoughts and memories of the events that had transpired today. He repeatedly dissected and analyzed the techniques that senior disciple Li taught him until he could grasp the essence behind them. This was an effect of Han Li's fifth layer of cultivation in the eternal spring arts, eidetic memory. Taking full advantage of his eidetic memory, Han Li crammed as many martial arts techniques as he could get hold of into his brain, analyzing them over and over. His eidetic memory was what caused Li Feiyu to call him a genius. 2 months ago, Han Li had used medicine that he concocted to forcefully break into the fifth layer of the eternal spring arts. Both the yellow dragon pellet as well as the gold essence pill had incredibly strong medical effects that widely surpassed Han Li's estimation. These two concocted pills could be considered priceless treasures. However, he had already consumed over half of his stock. From what left, Han Li estimated that it should be barely enough for him to break through to the sixth layer of the eternal spring arts. Rubbing his hands in glee, he wondered what surprises the sixth layer of the eternal spring arts had in store for him. There was only half a year left until Dr. Mo's time limit. Although Han Li had learned some martial arts from Li Feiyu, he was unable to combine the martial arts techniques with his true qi. He could at most display the forms, but he could not manifest the true might behind the martial arts techniques he learned from Li Feiyu. Against clumsy and weak people, it was more than enough to deal with them. However, if he wanted to fight against Dr. Mo with such low-level skills, it would be very laughable. It was the same as hitting a dog with a meat bun, producing no effects at all. Just thinking about this caused worry to arise in Han Li's heart. How troublesome. The eternal spring arts enhanced his body in multiple ways, but it couldn't be used for battle or slaughter. Now, it seemed like he could only depend on the blinking sword art, hoping that it would create a miracle and give him a chance to survive whatever ordeal would take place. On an afternoon 10 days after their agreement, Han Li sneaked out of God Hand Valley in order to meet Li Feiyu. In actuality, Han Li couldn't have snuck out even if he tried. Dr. Mo was aware of Han Li's every movement and simply let Han Li move with unrestricted freedom. The amount of freedom he was granted initially caused Han Li to be suspicious of Dr. Mo's intentions, but after leaving the valley several times without detecting any signs of his movements being tracked, Han Li began to feel relieved. Reassured, he continued to carry out his own plans within God Hand Valley. After a long period of deliberation, Han Li gradually deduced the reason why Dr. Mo granted him so much freedom. Dr. Mo had been patient and accommodated Han Li's needs because it was in his best interest to do so. Although Dr. Mo used his two trump cards, the insect corpse pill as well as the lives of his family, to threaten Han Li, he knew that such methods would not be able to fully control his disciple. Han Li would only feel vengeance in his heart, thus causing his cultivation progress to be half-hearted. Therefore, if Dr. Mo did not restrict Han Li's freedom, Han Li would no longer feel as oppressed or have a shadow over his heart. After all, even though Dr. Mo wanted Han Li to cultivate the eternal spring arts, there was no way he could tie Han Li up and forced him to cultivate at knife point. After Han Li deduced the reason, his guts got bigger and bigger. In the past, he would try his best to sneak out of the valley, without alerting Dr. Mo. But now, he would just swaggering walk out of the valley. On the surface, Han Li seemed not to be affected by Dr. Mo's hidden surveillance, but in reality, he was extremely cautious to not reveal what he was scheming. After he walked out of the valley, Han Li activated his eternal spring arts, causing his perception to rise to an unearthly level. His heightened perception could accurately register any living being within a radius of about 30 meters. Han Li believed that even if Dr. Mo was secretly watching him, there was no way Dr. Mo could escape from being detected. Although Han Li knew that it was impossible for him to win in a direct confrontation against Dr. Mo, he was confident that his five senses surpassed Dr. Mo's own senses. After walking for some time, Han Li cautiously entered their previous hiding spot where he and Li Feiyu had enjoyed the refreshing bath earlier. The moment he entered, Han Li noticed that Li Feiyu had already arrived and was sitting next to the pond. Li Feiyu had lowered his head, observing his bare legs soaking in the cooling water pond. Pu tong, he kicked his legs above the surface of the water, causing the pond to be disturbed by small waves. Li Feiyu lost himself in the excitement of his unusually childish actions. When Li Feiyu heard the sound of Han Li entering, he did not even turn his head and complained straight away. "Junior disciple Han, you are getting more and more late to our meetings, making me wait more than half a day every time. Can't you try to arrive earlier?" "Sorry, Han Li flicked the mud stains off his robes as he tried to explain more. "Catch this." Li Feiyu did not wait for Han Li to finish his explanations before tossing a large bundle towards him. "What is this? Is this something delicious?" Han Li asked, but after grabbing the bundle, he could feel the hard and unyielding objects stored inside. They didn't seem like food that could be eaten. "You only know how to eat. Didn't you want me to get for you the manual for blinking sword art?" Li Feiyu glared at Han Li. "What? This is a sword manual? Are you sure you are not mistaken? Did you accidentally grab a stone from your backyard?" Han Li hoisted up the huge bundle. An expression of disbelief could be seen in his face. So heavy. Han Li exerted his strength to hoist the bundle, but it was so heavy that he fell over. "Ha ha." Li Feiyu began to laugh wildly, unable to suppress it any longer. He rolled on the ground, laughing his ass off in childish glee. Han Li suspiciously glanced at Li Feiyu before staring at the huge bundle once again. Pung! A sound rang out as he kicked the huge bundle. It seemed like there really was a book wrapped inside. No longer paying attention to Li Feiyu, he squatted beside the large bundle and used his hands to feel what was inside. He quickly stopped. Wasting time to guess the contents of the bundle was an extremely foolish action. A pair of clean, white palms grasped the complicated knot of the bundle. Using all of his fingers, he forced the knot open. Pa pow! The crisp sound of clapping hands rang out. Han Li did not immediately open the bundle. Instead, he turned his head and stared at his evil, laughing friend, Li Feiyu. It was unknown when, but Li Feiyu had already stopped laughing and put on his shoes. Currently, he was furiously clapping his hands while cheering for Han Li, oblivious to the pain from his red-tinged palms. "Excellent. Every time I see you execute the silk wrapping palms, I find it incredible. That technique seems to have been designed for you alone. Since the time that I taught to you, only a span of 2 months has passed." Li Feiyu continued clapping his hands and praising Han Li. "Don't tell me that in order to see me demonstrating that technique, you purposely tied a convoluted knot on such a large bundle?" asked Han Li, slightly agitated. "Of course not. Once you open the bundle, you'll understand." Li Feiyu's smiling countenance suddenly turned serious. Curious and bewildered as to why Li Feiyu would suddenly speak with such a tone, Han Li cast his gaze onto the bundle once more. He deliberated for a moment before stretching his index finger and middle finger, lightly grasping the edge of the item inside the bundle, and dragging the hidden item out in the open. This is. Beads of sweat appeared on Han Li's head as his two eyes almost popped out of their socket. How is it? Are you shocked? Li Feiyu slowly walked towards Han Li, patting him on his shoulder. At a loss for words, Han Li stiffly turned his body, and looked straight at Li Feiyu. Why are you looking at me with that expression? There's no way I'll marry you, alright? Li Feiyu laughingly teased Han Li. After hearing Li Feiyu's words, Han Li cleared his mind. I want to make it clear between us. From this moment on, I don't know you, nor have you met me before. Han Li's voice got louder in intensity as he roared furiously. I don't know if my vision is blurry or if you've gone insane. You actually stole half of the 7 Supreme Division's secret manuals? If you're discovered, both of us will suffer a fate worse than death. As he hollered at Li Feiyu, Han Li pointed his finger at the pile of secret manuals in front of him. On the top left-hand corner of the manuals were several characters written in gold. 7 Supreme Division, Secret Library. Seeing that Han Li became furious, Li Feiyu did not get angry. Instead, Li Feiyu remained indifferent. He tilted his head, stuck his pinky into his ear, and concentrated on cleaning his ear. Han Li's reaction was an appropriate and expected one. After Han Li had vented his anger, he saw that Li Feiyu remained as brazen as a city wall, almost as if he had not heard any of Han Li's remarks. Han Li calmed down, sensing that something was off. You are not a fool, nor are you an egomaniac. You wouldn't do anything that would get yourself killed. You must tell me what your reason was behind such a reckless action right now, Han Li gravely demanded. Li Feiyu, seeing that Han Li's anger was quickly being replaced once again by reason, felt somewhat regretful. He assumed a wronged and pitiful appearance and repeatedly complained of this injustice by shouting, Heavens! I'm being wrongly accused. A moment ago, I was actually about to give you an explanation, but you didn't even give me a chance to open my mouth. Now you're complaining about me. Am I truly no longer a person in your eyes? This kind of whining was obviously fake. Anyone who took a quick glance at this farce would feel annoyed after seeing through the act. Han Li also could not help but think of taking advantage of the situation and stepped forward, fiercely kicking Li Feiyu, who was resembling a shish tea-eating dog. Give me less acting and more explaining. Quickly. You scoundrel. If the junior disciples that admire you see your lazy appearance, your image as a powerful and confident fighter would be completely shattered. Han Li gave him a bit of a mocking expression. Han Li currently had no time to vent his anger and argue with Li Feiyu. If this secret exchange was not handled well, the two of them would face enormous consequences. Li Feiyu seemed to realize what Han Li was thinking at this moment and no longer ridiculed or denounced him. Rather, he lazily walked over to the bundle and picked up a rare book. After standing up straight, his face had a mysterious radiance. With a smile that was simultaneously not a genuine smile, he handed the book over to Han Li. Afterwards, signaling with his eyes, Li Feiyu beckoned Han Li to look at the book's cover. Han Li reached out with his hand to receive the very thin and rare book, giving Li Feiyu a look filled with doubt. He was at a bit of a loss, not knowing what sort of crafty scheme Li Feiyu was plotting. Open it and take a look for yourself. If you do, you'll understand everything. Li Feiyu deliberately used a mysterious tone in order to coax Han Li into examining the book. What, you can't say it outright? What's the point of trying to keep it a mystery? Although hesitation was evident on Han Li's face, he flipped through the pages of the book. He opened the cover, revealing the first page of the rare manual. The top of the page, neatly written in black and white, were 3 large words, blinking sword art. N. Han Li was slightly astounded. Han Li was astonished that the first book Li Feiyu had given to him was exactly what he desired. Don't lose your focus. Come and see the rest of the books. Li Feiyu tossed over a few nearby rare manuals in succession. Han Li caught the books one by one and was completely stunned after quickly skimming through their entirety. All of their titles were clearly written with black and white characters, blinking sword art. Only after a long while had passed did Han Li lift his gaze from the books in his hands. Pointing his finger at the large pile of secret manuals on the ground, Han Li asked stammeringly, You cannot possibly tell me that these are all manuals for blinking sword art. I am very sorry, Junior Disciple Han. You have indeed guessed correctly. Li Feiyu shrugged his shoulders and spread his hands, his face wearing an expression of helplessness. Although Li Feiyu seemed apologetic, his feelings did not coincide with his words. The corner of his mouth rose faintly as he derived pleasure from Han Li's frustration. This is impossible. There are almost 100 books here, so how could all of these possibly be manuals for blinking sword art? Unable to stomach Li Feiyu's cheap tricks, Han Li questioned Li Feiyu because he was filled with great doubt. You're asking me? Who was I even supposed to ask in order to verify that they were the right manuals without getting caught? I was at the corner of the 7 Supreme Division's library when I suddenly came upon so many rare manuals sharing the same name. I, too, was shocked. Li Feiyu rolled his eyes and mumbled to himself, giving off the appearance of having lingering trauma. Soon after, he saw Han Li's dumbfounded expression and couldn't help but laugh heartily. Li Feiyu would later say that seeing Han Li suffer such a shock was indeed a rare and impressive sight. Ordinarily, Han Li's face was always calm and composed, as if he always had a card up his sleeve. For Han Li to be shocked was near impossible. At this moment, Han Li had such a numb, foolish look that made Li Feiyu feel that these past few days had been well worth the taxing effort. After a moment, Han Li had at last cleared his mind. He tightly grabbed several books with his hands and lowered his head, deep in thought. Then, with a thought, he looked up and asked neither slowly nor rushed, Did you count how many manuals were in the bundle? In total, how many manuals did you bring? Han Li once again asked. Naturally, I counted the manuals multiple times. Altogether, there are 74 books, all with the same name. Li Feiyu immediately replied, without any hesitation. If we don't know the exact quantity of manuals and fail to return 1 or 2 books, we might draw ourselves unwanted attention, which might prove troublesome, Han Li immediately explained. He softly pinched the somewhat yellow pages, slowly turning them over as he carefully skimmed one of the secret manuals in his hand.